Hello everyone. This is a quick video on how to resolve the SQL Service Server and Visual Studio connection or certification problem when you're doing the reporting services assignment. So here's a typical error message you might get, or you might have received one, that complains about the connection was either failing or it was successful, but there's still some issue with the certification. And this document is also posted on Blackboard. There's basically two ways that you can resolve it. One way, the easy way, is to just ignore it and to um, simply go back to the credentials for the data source properties and select the Windows authentication again, and then just manually type in the SQL script that is provided for you, and then you can just move on, and it'll work out okay. Well, I think it's going to work out okay. The other option, which is what I'm going to demonstrate in this video, is to actually resolve the issue, and and this one is about the certification question. So you can follow along here, but this is going to be a demo and a video. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to connect the SQL Server. So I'm going to go to the database engine, and then this is the name of the instance. I'm going to copy that and maybe post them on my notes here so that I can grab it later. And I'm going to use the optional and check the trust certificate and using the Windows here. So I think it's going to work okay. And then here, just make sure that you have your ETL database with the tables all set up from the ETL side. Okay, so here's the work companies. Just want to point out to you that on this instance description, this is a SQL Server 2022 because it says SQL Server 16 X, right? So 15 is a 2019, SQL Server 16 is a 2022. So I just started, I actually pulled up my previous reporting assignment here, and this is a Visual Studio 2022, and I'm going to get to the place where the error message usually happens. So anyway, I'm going to create another one just as a practice. Data source here, do that, accepting the name, SQL Server, build, server name, I think I pasted it here. This is a SQL Server client, and then Windows authentication, select the database, so I'm just going to pick the same one, do the test connections, looks okay, and then I'm going to say okay. So this is alright, and I'm going to say okay. And if you look at the credentials, it'll be Windows authentication integration, so I'm just going to say okay. So here's, this is the 2, so for the data set, I'm going to create another one here, 2, I'm going to accept the 2 here, and here I'm going to click on the query designer, and it says connection data is not good, right? So I'm going to say, if I look at the details, something about integrated security or credentials, right? So I'm going to say okay, I'm going to cancel it out, go back here on data source 2, go to the credentials, and I noticed that it got changed. So I'm going to put that back, and I'm going to say okay, come back to the data sets, I'm going to create a new one, and accept the default name. I'm going to accept the data source 2, remain as a text. I can come down here and click on the query designer, and it complains about connection now is successful, but there's something wrong with the certificate, right? So I'm going to say okay, and this is, you can say okay, but here this is okay. So here is where you type in your SQL script. So let me grab that. Actually, I can just type it in here. Let's see here, I think I'm going to say select all from work companies. Let's just make sure that's the actual name. Here is the work underscore companies. So that looks okay. So you can move this out, and all you got to do is just click on this exclamation mark, and it should populate. And you're not doing anything here. You're just testing and verifying. So you can say OK, right? So you can say OK here as well. And here, this data set appears OK. So that's a quick and easy way. And you can move forward with the reporting assignment. Now I'm going to show you how to resolve in certificates. The first thing you want to do is I have the SQL Server up, and I still have the Visual Studio up here, so I'm just going to keep it there. But I'm going to search for a SQL Server Configuration Manager, this guy here. So you need to click on it. Well, I guess I could choose to run as an administrator. So this guy comes up, and you want to expand the network configuration and find the instance of your SQL that you're using. So here you can see that I have your name as a name, right? So this guy's the one, and just right click on it, look at the properties. Okay, and then here look at the certificate, and there is no certificate here, right? So do a drop down here and pick the IIS Express certificate. So do that, and if you click on the view, it says certification information. This certification is intended, and so it looks okay, right? So that's because I resolved it, right? But it may say, when you look at it, it'll say something like this. I think I put a screenshot here. It says, this certificate is not trusted. So follow that instruction. But if it says whatever that it's not trusted, then that's your issue that needs to be resolved. But that's what I'm going to show. But mine says nothing about not trusted. So this is okay. So what you do in here is to click on the details tab, and then scroll down here. Down here it says copy the file, right? So you click on that. It's going to bring up the wizard. So just click on next. Choose the defaulted no. We're not going to export the private key. So click on next. You accept the default value of the format and click next. And then we're exporting the file, so you can just give it a browse, play. You're going to put it someplace you like, and I think I put them on desktop. And here, I probably you can give it a name, whatever you want to give it a name. But I think I called it IIS cert, and if I do that, it's already there. But I'm going to pretend that it wasn't there. But I want to, and then save, right? And so it's going to come up like that. And then just click on the next, and then just click on the finish. And it says export was successful. And then say OK. And you can say apply. It says any changes maybe will not take place until restarted, so say OK. And then you can say OK to exit out. So what you want to do is come up to the SQL services and look for that SQL server. Actually, I'm just going to refresh this guy here. And I'm going to restart this. Restart. Comes up, I say yes. We're finished, so it should be good. I'm going to exit out. Yes. So go back out to the cert that you just saved. You can just double click on it. And it probably will say it's not trusted or whatever, but now that we saved it, we can install the certificate. You can choose the local machine, and say next. And then you want to say place all certificates in the following. To the browse and select the trusted root certification. And click next and finish. Import was successful. Okay, and you can close it out. And now if you double click the certification, then it should say, it should have changed from untrusted to this guy. But mine was already trusted. Okay, so anyway, now if you go back to the SQL Server Configuration Manager, I might have closed this, so I reopened it. And open up the network configuration, go to the SQL Server name, and click on the properties again. And here, if you look at the certificate, it's there. But if you click on the view, this certificate should now been updated to say what you see here. The certificate is for, okay, instead of like untrusted or whatever. So this should resolve your certification issue. Okay. So hopefully this is helpful. There is still another way, and let me write it down here. So for this issue with the connection or certification, I mentioned that this is probably the easiest, quick solution, which is sort of ignore it by making sure that Windows authentication is rechecked, and then manually type in the SQL script. And then the little bit long technical way is to actually resolve the certification. There's a third option of using not a Windows authentication, but a SA account. I'm not going to talk about that right now, unless it's absolutely necessary, because that's another tricky part. But anyway, so you do have some options. Hopefully this is helpful and to resolve issues. Thank you. Bye bye.